Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again, discussing episode 3 of FX on Hulu's American Horror Stories, episode 3, titled Drive-In. We're going to break down this episode. This will be a spoiler discussion, but before we dive into it, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing to the channel, and while you all are at it, make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed my review of American Horror Stories, episode 3, well, make sure to like the video, share the video. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in the comments, if you've seen this latest episode of American Horror Stories, what did you think about it? Let's talk about your pros, your cons. Did you enjoy the characters, the kills, the premise of this episode, and will you be back to watch episode 4? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So you can see my review of episode 1 and 2 of the American Horror Stories. And look, I'll just say I was very underwhelmed by those first 2 episodes, but at least with this one, let's just jump right into my thoughts of this episode. The premise was at least unique enough to separate itself from what episode 1 and 2 did, which was play nostalgia and just kind of underwhelm me in such a way that it was just like, where's Tate? Where's the family? But you can see my review of episode 1 and 2, but talking of episode 3, I really enjoy this concept of this unforbidden film, watching the drive-in, and this, when you're watching this film, you do some pretty effed up things, which is biting people's faces off, eating people's eyes out, killing your loved ones. So I like that idea because literally last month, if you all checked out my review for the independent film by the name of Censor, which pretty much kind of plays in that same genre, you have a film editor who works on video nasties, these forbidden films that people don't supposed to see, because this is why I actually kind of like this idea, and I love when horror films dive into this idea of media being the reason why people do crazy things like eating someone's face off, like being on bath salts or something like that. So that idea to me was really fascinating. You hear the urban legends of if you watch this movie, you might do something. You hear that there's certain music songs in the past, lifetime of music where if you play a song backwards, it has like subliminal, satanic type of saying. So I'm always fascinated by that. So I do applaud this episode for at least playing it different and not relying on nostalgia like the first 2 episodes, even though there is a character, John Carroll Lynch, who has been a part of the American Horror Stories. In particular, he is famously known for playing Twisty the Clown and some other characters in other seasons. But, he was in this episode, which was a callback. Obviously, I think this whole premise of this spinoff, and I love someone mentioned in the comments, this is American Horror Stories, The Next Generation, which I'm not a fan of this generation so far of the storytelling, but I think this whole season we're going to either have callbacks to previous locations of the American Horror Story lore, or we're going to have characters and actors that we've seen on the show. I don't think Sarah Paulson or Evan Peters or Jessica Lange is going to, or, Emma Roberts is going to appear on this season, but I think we're going to have like secondary, supporting characters that might pop in, like we had Matt Balmer last week. We have John Carroll Lynch this week, and I believe Billy Lord's going to be on a future episode. So I think that's what they're going to kind of do, is like play in nostalgia and try to give you original story. So again, I like the story, but let's talk about what I didn't like about the story, and that's just the execution of the story. And yet again, I do not care about these characters. I am familiar with these 2 young actors, Kelly and Chad. We have Madison Bailey, who I've seen her in Outer Banks, and the gentleman that plays Chad, I know he was on one of the freeform superhero shows. I think it was Runaways, if I'm not mistaken. They were okay. I at least enjoyed their characters much more than I did the characters in episode 1 and 2, but still, this whole like playing to the tropes thing, again, to me, it feels like American Horror Story so far just hasn't had any like really good characters that I really care for. It's just a very basic level. You've seen this story a million times before. I don't believe the film that they refer to in this particular episode, Rabbit Rabbit, is any way attached to the lore of American Horror Stories, but I want to see at least a clip from the movie. And when you see the whole idea of how the director Larry came up with it, and he chemically was able to find out an algorithm to make the people do what they did, and it's just like, that didn't make any sense in regards to what exactly were the people transforming to. Why did their skin become the way it did? They were like half vampire, half zombie, which didn't really understand like what was going on there, and they can die pretty easily. The one friend of Chad was stabbed in the chest by scissors. We had Kelly's friend D getting hit by the car. So it was just like, okay, they seem pretty easy to take out. I don't understand why it's like this global effect of these people. And number one, too, when it happened in the 80s, what was the resolve? How did those people that were affected by the movie, did they just kill them off? When you get bit, do you get turned into one of them? It was just... It made no sense to me. So again, I applaud this episode for at least being different and not relying on nostalgia like the first two episodes. But again, it's the execution. It's the lack of care of these characters. It's the lack of really kind of world building. I know this is a one-off type of situation where we're only going to get one new episode per week, which is going to not connect to the previous episode. But at least give me some more backstory. Give me some lore in this particular story you're telling. When we go to the Larry guy, and he gives this like literally the most boring exposition about where he's been in the last 15 years, going to jail, studying the books, trying to perfect his algorithm, all that stuff. When he was talking for literally, it felt like 10 minutes, but I know it's probably like 2 minutes on screen time. It was just so boring. And I'm a fan of John Carroll Lynch. Again, his portrayal of Twisted Clown, his other portrayals in the other season of American Horror Story, him as an actor in general, he's a great actor. One of my favorite episodes of The Walking Dead included him. He was in, last year's Trial of Chicago 7. He's a great actor, but oh my gosh, his direction and his acting in this episode was terrible, mixed in with all the other supporting characters who were just so generic, so stereotypical, and I just didn't care. And again, I will say that the young couple, they I at least enjoyed them more than I did the characters last week, but that's still not saying much because I didn't really care if they lived or survived, and the whole thing of them just surviving the night so they can have sex. I get it. This is, back in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, the slasher films, that was the whole thing, is drugs, sex, and kills, and, all that stuff. It plays into that genre, but it's just like, can we be more innovative? Can we be more unique? This is supposed to be a spinoff. I'm hoping that this was supposed to regenerate, kind of revive what I loved about American Horror Stories, the originality, the blood, the guts, the fun characters, the fun stories. But these 3 stories so far have been very underwhelming, and I always like to give shows 3 episodes, but based on these 3 episodes, I don't think I'm going to be continuously watching this on a week-to-week basis. And, I'll pop in and out, and next week's episode is supposed to be about, I believe, a video game gone wrong, and then there's like another episode about them going to a campsite. I'll check out the preview to see if it has at least actors I like, and it has a cool enough premise that makes me intrigued. But so far, man, based on these 3 episodes, I am not that impressed by American Horror Stories, and this doesn't affect my thought and to go on into season 10 of American Horror Stories double feature. But this spinoff so far has been very underwhelming, very uneven. The direction's been kind of wacky. Going back to this episode, the blood just looked like ketchup all the time, and it was just poorly executed, and I really did not care for the resolve of how we end the episode where we see Larry. He obviously gets shot in the knees. They think that they're killing him. They think that they got rid of his last reel, but then we end up finding out when they're having sex that he was able to give a contributor or distribute his film to Netflix, which is kind of funny in itself because this show is on FX on Hulu, which is owned by Disney, but then they put a Netflix promotion in their show that's a Disney product. That was just so weird to me. And how did Chad and Kelly find him randomly in the desert in his trailer? It was just a lot of like, I wasn't a fan. I was not a fan of this episode. I have to say, if I were to rank the first 3 episodes, I still think episode 1 was okay. I'll put this episode ahead of episode 2 because episode 2 to me was like absolutely atrocious and just really bad writing and really bad acting. At least this one didn't have bad acting, I can say, for the most part. But there you have it, guys. That's my spoiler discussion of episode 3 titled Drive-In. Again, I believe episode 4, I'm going to look it up now, is supposed to be called The Naughty List, which will consist of a group of influencers face a reckoning after posting a problematic video online. So we'll see what episode 4 has to offer. I'm looking at the cast here, and I don't really see anyone I recognize. Oh, Danny Trejo is going to be in next week's episode. So, I don't know. I like Danny Trejo. I might see what that one's about. But again, let me know your pros, your cons. Are you enjoying this spinoff? Did you enjoy this episode? What is your favorite out of 3? What was your favorite kill in this recent episode? I don't think I had a favorite kill because they cut so quickly to the kills. But hey, I already talked about it. Let me know your thoughts on the episode, and let me know if you'll be back to watch episode 4, and let's discuss in the comments. If you stuck around to the end of the video, I appreciate every single one of you. If you haven't already, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out my review that I did for Old, the new M. Night Shyamalan supernatural thriller, and we'll have some more reviews coming in the coming days for you all. Ted Lasso, we have some other great things to talk about, The White Lotus, and so much more. So hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe. We'll see you on the next video.